Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our streets where everybody knows your pain, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome into another edition of the Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I am Rob, and I'm here with the one and only, the top 10 in Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings, Mr. Rob Norton. How are you doing tonight, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I appreciate. I've been moving on up. Hopefully, can keep doing it for the squad and seeing where it goes.
My awesome, man is on a heater. If you don't know, Fantasy Pros does the expert consensus rankings where you go and rank every player for each week. And then at the end of the week, you're either top 10 or however. There's so many people in it. Norton is top 10 on the season so far, which is an amazing accomplishment. He's putting on for the Dad Bod. That's all I'm going to say. I'm excited. He should be excited. So it is a big deal.
I'm definitely pumped, dude. I was telling you guys earlier, I think, so like last week was my first like top 10 individual week, and I moved up from like 15 to 14. And then this week I was 23rd. So I was like, oh, I'll probably still stick around 14. Then I looked and I was 9th, and I'm like, oh man, the top 10 must have done real bad. And I looked, a lot of the people that were top 10 previous week, like they finished like 130th or something this week and things like that. So they went way down, and I jumped 5 people. So yeah, hopefully can keep being consistent. I've been pretty consistent most weeks, so I'm fingers crossed, but we'll see.
Albert, what's up, brother?
What's up, Albert?
He is he's killing it. So that's all you people need to know. And that's why he's here. That's why he's in the Dad Bod squad. He knows what the hell he's doing. And yeah, we listen to him. He's the man. But we got a big show tonight. Obviously, Wednesdays, we're doing our waiver wire recap, our trade ideas for this upcoming week to throw out tonight. Hopefully, you guys can get some trades in. But as always, let's kick it off with the news of the day. Obviously, the big news, it was kind of thought of already. Anthony Richardson is officially out for the season. He is having season-ending shoulder surgery. So, Nort, that's a tough look, dude. I'm sorry. That was your boy all season.
I know.
All season. So.
Yeah, that's a big bummer for me, especially because I had him very high and it was looking good. And man, injuries just suck. I hate to see it.
It sucks. We're all bummed about it because he was just fun. Like, he was just a fun player to watch too. Like, not only for fantasy football, just in general for the NFL. He was awesome. Kyren Williams is likely out until week 11. Wow, I did not see that news. That sucks for my Kyren Williams shares. Not great. Who do you think's the guy there? I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit, but
yeah. So I think my preference among them right now, since they've been making so many different moves, right now the way I look at it is Zach Evans first. What's up, Tiff?
What's up, Tiff?
Zach Evans first. I actually think Royce Freeman second. Henderson.
I think he's got some value.
Yeah, Henderson third, Gaskin fourth, but Henderson and Gaskin third and fourth is close to me because I'm pretty sure isn't Henderson on the practice squad and Gaskin was active squad?
Yeah.
So that kind of
they had to activate Gaskin because Gaskin was on Minnesota's practice squad.
Okay.
So when you sign someone off the practice squad, he automatically has to be on your 53. So Gaskins will be on the 53. I think Henderson's just there because he knows the playbook.
That's kind of how I feel.
And he's an insurance. That's how I'm looking at it. I mean, he's been sitting on the couch. So that's how I look at it. I'm 100% with you. I think it's Zach Evans, Royce Freeman, but I'm sure we're going to get into it a little bit here. But that's how I'm gauging it. David Montgomery likely out week 7. I think we all thought that was coming. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully that's it, because he has been tearing it up. Again, for my Monty shares, I hope it's just 1 week. Kyler Murray, designated for return from IR, so that 21-day window is activated. So he was at practice today, so we're going to see how this all unfolds. Obviously, there's the whole maybe he's traded, maybe he's not traded, maybe we don't really know how this is all going to pan itself out, but it's now that window's open. So we have 3 weeks to figure out what's going to happen with Kyler Murray, whether he's the starter in Arizona or he's traded to a competitive team, which would either way, it's good news for Kyler for the quarterback position, because it's kind of been a wild season for the quarterback position. So it just gives you one more option. Deshaun Watson, still not practicing. I saw a report today that he said it was a rotator cuff strain with microplates. Don't know the timetable. It's already been 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, 3 weeks of him sitting. Looks like he's going to miss a 4th week. Getting panicky.
Yeah,
I'm getting panicky.
Yeah, I am too. This is not good. This is not good at all for the Browns, for Browns pass catchers, Browns offense in general.
Yeah,
it's tough.
The worst part of it is that he had his game, right? He had that game where you're like, okay, we're going to start seeing a little bit more of the old Deshaun Watson. He looked really good in Tennessee. Then this happens. Now you got to come back and see how this is all going to play itself out. Hell, y'all. Hey, San Francisco. But yes, we did. And it was a nail biter, let me tell you.
It was.
Christian McCaffrey, speaking of San Francisco, Christian McCaffrey is day-to-day with the oblique injury that he sustained, obviously, in that Browns game. Again, who are they playing? Do you know who they got this week? I don't think it's anybody good.
Is it Minnesota? Maybe not. I don't know.
That sounds right.
It's a Monday night.
It's a Monday night game. If I'm not mistaken, it's a team that's not that great right now.
It's Minnesota.
So Minnesota. If it's me, San Francisco, I'm leaning McCaffrey's going to be out this week. McCall Hardman traded to the Chiefs, late round swap of picks. Interesting. I think this is just because Justin Watson dislocated the elbow.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a timetable on that, but I'm sure that's a very long process to come back to speed from. So Mecole is back to the Chiefs. Interesting. I'm sure we'll discuss a little bit, but is what it is. Julio Jones signs a 1-year deal with the Eagles today, out of the blue. Anything there?
No. I had to put it in there, a little hat tip.
For
Julio's,
sure you do.
Julio's one of my favorite all-time guys, so
Me too.
It's definitely I mean, I think it's more of just like a depth kind of thing. I don't expect him to really affect the rest of the pass catchers, and I don't really expect him to be much of a factor himself. And maybe a slight boost for Hurts, I guess, getting another option that's better than maybe their 4th option at this point. So
yeah, I said this last season. I thought Tampa should have used them this way, the way that we're seeing some tight ends utilized in the NFL. He's a lot bigger body wide receiver. He doesn't run as fast as he used to. You kind of put him in that like Travis Kelce role of how he runs his routes and stuff like that. I think he could be valuable. I'm not picking him up, but for the NFL purposes, I think he could be a good piece to help that team keep moving the ball downfield a little bit better than they have been. It's a little bit concerning with what's going on there, but plenty of time for them to figure it out. I'm not too worried. I think they're going to get to it. So, but Norton, I think it's time for a little. Oh my God, Take that loop track off.
Do you believe in that?
Do you believe now? Let's get into it.
Let's
We're going to
see.
do it a little bit different this week.
Okay.
So I grouped the positions together. Okay. So I'm going to give you the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. We're going to go through it. I want you to give me a quick hit on the two players, like your overall thoughts on these two players that I'm bringing up, and then give me who you would rather have the rest of the season.
Perfect. Awesome.
Let's start with the quarterback position. Jared Goff, QB7 overall. He's been on a tear the past couple weeks. Going up against my one and only love, that lovely lock, Trevor Lawrence, QB14 right now. Big swing and a miss on me. So give me your overall expectations for them the rest of the season and like what you think of them right now, and then who you'd rather have.
Man, this one's tough. This one's tough because I was down on Lawrence heading into the year.
I know
I
you
had
were.
Goff basically the end of Goff to me was kind of like the end of a big tier, which I had Trevor Lawrence basically right above the tier basically. Now obviously I would consider them in the same tier. It's interesting. I mean, I think both are QB1s, like top 12 guys rest of the season if I was ranking. I had put out a little thread. I had been trying to put out like a thread every week on recapping all the games and things. And I put that Goff, I think, is a top 12 guy. So I do think he's back end top 12 rest of the season. And I think Lawrence is kind of as well. I think I'd prefer Lawrence slightly still. Even the fact that I've been down on him. Just I think he's younger, can run a little bit more. Both have good offenses, but I think the defense is actually better for the Lions.
It is.
So they could run more, especially if Monty gets healthy.
No doubt. It's interesting, right? Like Goff has put up 3 top 5 finishes, 2 top 5s the past 2 previous weeks. While Trevor Lawrence has cracked the top 12 3 times, but hasn't been above QB10.
Right.
It's concerning a little bit for Trevor Lawrence. I'm with you. I think I'm still leaning Trevor Lawrence rest of the season, but man, I'll tell you, Goff has proved me wrong. I thought he was going to be around QB 15 to 20 in that range, but he looks good. The offense is a lot more explosive than I anticipated them being. Now he gets J-Mo back, one more wrinkle to the fold. Monty's out this week, so they're probably going to be a little bit more pass happy. So we'll see, but it's an interesting one. This one, I sat back and I had to think about it myself because it's a lot closer than I want to admit it is.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Let's get to the RBs. Alvin Kamara, running back 23 right now. Obviously, he's only had 3 weeks. DeAndre Swift, running back 7 overall. Kamara, if I'm not mistaken, in the 3 weeks he's been RB 8, 7, and 10 in those 3 weeks.
Yeah, this is a tough one. You picked some good ones, dude.
I'm coming with it this week.
Coming with the fire. I'm going to hedge a little bit here and say,
okay,
in full PPR, Kamara.
Okay.
In non-PPR, Swift, even though he is involved as a pass catcher, just not like Kamara. Kamara is like a PPR scam, basically.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Half give me Kamara still, but I love both. I really actually do love both. I
traded both top 10 rest of the season.
Both top 12. I'd say both top 12. I don't know if I can go top 10 because I'm still pretty high on the guys that are like
Mixon,
Jacobs, Pollard, like all the guys who are of like volume but kind of disappointed efficiency wise. So I'm still higher probably than most people are on those guys. But yeah. So yeah, I would say top 12. I'll give both top 12, I think. I don't know if I can fit them all in top 10, considering the guys other guys that I like.
Yeah, Swift. I mean, again, Swift's one of those guys where I'm like, he's proven me wrong, man. Just
Yeah.
we knew how good he was.
Hmm.
I just didn't anticipate them giving him the full workload. So since he's taken that over, he hasn't finished outside top 15, which is fantastic. So he's just being very, very consistent. He's had a couple top 5 performances sprinkled in there as well. So he's been very good, especially if you picked him up in waivers or wherever you grabbed him late in the draft. But let's get to the wide receivers. Jacoby Myers, wide receiver 14 overall right now, and Mike Evans, wide receiver 20.
Yeah, another good one, another tough one. Because Evans, I was kind of both of these guys. Actually, I was kind of a little bit out on heading to the year. I've always liked Jacoby, but
I was way
were you
more out on Mike Evans.
Yeah,
Way
same.
more. I think I was probably a little bit
Relative.
higher on consensus for Jacoby.
Okay.
I just believed in Jacoby, even though I'm not a big fan of Jimmy G. It was kind of
Well,
counterintuitive because I was a little out on Devontae.
yeah.
But Mike Evans, I think I ranked him like wide receiver 50, right around there,
Yeah.
something like that.
I
Like
remember
had him,
you were super low. I was
I had
low, but
him
not.
low.
Yeah, I was low, but not as low as you were. And then I think you had Jacoby higher than me. Jacoby. It's funny because Jacoby's always been a guy that I've loved. I've been like
Yeah.
really in on him the past few years, but I was worried going from the Patriots to the Raiders because I thought both would be bad teams, but you're going from where you're the top guy to behind like
Yeah.
one of the biggest target hogs in the league. Like, so yeah, I was worried about that. I will say between the two, if I have to have one rest of the season, I don't know where you're gonna go honestly with this. But I prefer Mike Evans. I think just like Mike Evans is so good. Like he's just proven that he just I mean every
Yeah.
year just gets it done. And my worry with Jacoby is just the fact that we see Michael Mayer starting to get more involved, right? He's starting to run more routes. He's starting to get more involved.
Jimmy G is hurt too, right?
Yep.
Did they say how long he's out?
They didn't. They don't. It doesn't say really how long he's going to be out. He's just been like, I mean, it's a back issue, right?
Yeah.
So who knows really how long he's going to be out? That could be something that flares up at any point in the season. And again, you still have Devontae Adams there. So to me, like, and Devontae's been struggling. So I don't think that's gonna. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen all year. And I do think that ultimately, when it comes down to it, Evans has less target competition and a better situation. And I think he's a more talented player, even though I like Jacoby.
Yeah. I'm leaning Evans for the sole reason that if you look at the numbers and stuff like that, Myers is doing this mostly on touchdown production, which has not been his MO his whole career, right? Like he's never really been the touchdown guy anywhere he's been. And I think that kind of comes down to earth a little bit. So those boom games that we've been seeing from Jacoby, where he's putting up 25 points, 30 points, stuff like that, it's mostly on like 2 touchdowns a game, stuff like that. And now with Jimmy G, all this injury stuff, I think Brian Hoyer is going to be the quarterback at least this week, if not multiple weeks. I think that comes back down a little bit. So he's going to be more into that like wide receiver 3 level for me, where I think Mike Evans is at least a solid mid to high end wide receiver 2 with upside of wide receiver 1. So I'm going Mike Evans as well.
Yep.
Tight ends. Let's get into it. Dalton Schultz going up against Dallas Goedert. Dalton Schultz is tight end 7 right now. He's had, again, a couple massive, not massive, but good weeks for the tight end position in a row. And Dallas Goedert, tight end 10. What are your thoughts on these two guys?
Yeah, definitely interesting because if we would have put this up 2 weeks ago, it wouldn't even be close because Schultz had been so bad. Goddard was struggling a little bit too, but Goddard at least has so much history to back up and offense, and Schultz was in a new situation, new offense, and he had struggled really bad.
Let me give you this here. Last 3 weeks, Schultz, 13 points, 19 points, 16 points. Goddard, 4.25.9.
Interesting. I still prefer Goddard.
Even with Julio.
Even with Julio. But yeah, I still prefer Goddard. I think he's just like I think I've always thought Goddard, especially for the last couple of years, he's kind of like been that. For me, he's been the poor man's George Kittle, where like they have a very consolidated high end offense, and he's like a very efficient guy, but like you never can really bank on the volume, right? Because they got other big name options ahead of them, but any week could pop off. Like that's how I consider Goddard, and Schultz might be a tiny bit safer, but like Goddard is the guy, definitely way more upside in my opinion. So I'm gonna go with Goddard. I'm interested in what you're gonna say here.
Yeah. Ooh, it's close, very close for me. I think I'm with you though with Goddard. And it mostly because we've seen Dalton Schultz's the majority of his damage has been with Tank Dell out, right?
Right.
Albert's hitting on it here, right? Schultz production coming at expense of Tank Dell. I mean, not the last 2 weeks, 100%. Yep. So with Tank Dell being out, when he comes back, I'm curious to see how Schultz does, right? We need to see him be able to produce with Schultz or with Tank Dell there as well. Even though, I mean, Goddard has had the issue. Goddard's had one game above 10 points. That's the issue, right? He had one boom game that we all called because it was a perfect setup for what it was. It was the Rams defense, one of the worst in the league against the tight end position. And other than that, he really hasn't done much. Schultz, it's tough, man. It's close. It's very close. But I think I'm going Goddard again with what you said. He can pop any week against any defense. He really could, just how good that offense is. Schultz, again, you have to see how he's going to be utilized when Tank Dell's back. So, yeah. Going Goddard, even though I don't like it, because I was super high on Schultz. I was high on Schultz coming into the season. I like that. That was good. I like doing the 2 instead of the 1.
I do too. It's a nice way to kind of gauge value.
Yeah. You get a couple things. You get info. You get kind of rankings for the rest of the season, stuff like that. But let's get into the waiver wire recap of the week. Nort, who did you go out and try to spend some tab on this week?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about him a little bit earlier. My top priority ended up being Zach Evans. I kind of went back and forth between him and like the San Fran running backs, but I just felt like McCaffrey seems like Shanahan's making it sound like they might he might even play this week. And if not, he's
crazy.
If not, he's probably back next week.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want to, and plus, honestly, I don't know which one would be the guy. Like Mason got more, but Mitchell, it was his first game back from injury, and Shanahan talked about how Mitchell has earned the right to be get a big workload when healthy because he's been good. So I really didn't know what to do about that. I put little sprinkle bids on those guys, but Zach Evans seems like the guy to me that kind of at least short term should have. Roshan was my top where available, but he was rostered in over 50% of most formats. There was some that I went in for him. And then I actually did place some stuff in for Bagent, Tyson Bagent or whatever, in the QB for Chicago.
Reflexers.
Yeah, reflexes and things like that. Scott Fishbowl, things like that. So I put in for him, and then so sprinkled in a little bit of some other guys. But what about you?
Rashee Rice was a guy that I was going out and trying to get. He is just for wide receiver. If I need a flexible option, if I got a bunch of wide receivers on bye, he was the guy that I went out and tried to go get. He just seems to be taking that number 1 spot to me in that offense, even though he hasn't done a ton of damage yet. I think it's coming. Like, I think they're still all trying to get on the same page. This offense obviously hasn't been what we're accustomed to. And I think, again, I'm positive they're going to figure it out. And when they do, I think Rashee Rice is going to be a big piece of that offense. So I think I went for him because I think he's going to have value throughout the rest of the season. Where I also sprinkled in some bids on Evans and Royce Freeman because one, we don't know who the guy's going to be. And two, I see it being close to a 50-50 split between those two. Royce Freeman has that the previous history of kind of being the goal line back, right? So like I think he's going to get a lot of those in the red zone touches that we want for fantasy football. It's going to be interesting. I still like Evans. I was big on Evans coming into the season, but I think I sprinkled on both of them just because it depends on who you can get, right? Like if someone went crazy with a bid on Evans, I was fine taking Royce Freeman because I think he's still going to be involved. So those were the guys that really went out. And this week's a crazy week with all these injuries going on. It's a bye-mageddon again where there's just a ton of buys. So there's but I think both Evans and Royce Freeman are playable this week, just based off of what's going on with the running back position.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see like what my rankings look like this week with 6 teams on bye, injuries, and where I have a lot of these guys. You know what I mean? Like I'm interested because I think I told you guys I usually start my ranking process like Thursday morning, afternoon. So tomorrow I'll be kind of doing my initial set. So I'm going to be real interested to see where I have like a lot of these waiver running backs and like where I end up with them. Since there was so many like kind of questionable options, you know.
Yeah, it's a weird one. This week's very weird. I think it's gonna be a really low scoring week overall for fantasy football. So you might be able to squeak out a win with some of these guys, just plugging them in. Hopefully they get you 10 points, something like that, fall into the end zone, pump your score up just enough to get over the hump. There's just so many question marks this week with all the injuries.
Yeah, and not only that, but if Zach Evans does get the majority of the work, which I kind of expect him to, then he's got a good matchup against Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh allows the third most. Third most. I don't know if it's fantasy. Fantasy points, but I think they allow the third most rushing yards per game at least. Was what I saw a little bit earlier. So yeah, it's he's got a nice matchup for just a plug and play kind of situation. So I think I'm going to be starting him in a couple spots because I have some Mixon on bye. I have a lot of Mixon and Pollard.
A lot of buys.
Yeah. Yep. I got Mixon and Pollard fill-ins. I got some
Brees.
CMC. Yep. Brees. Yep. So yeah. He's going to be an interesting plug and play this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just, set my lineup this week because I have a ton of course, I went Jets heavy before A-Rod got hurt. So Jets and Cowboys were the two teams that really hit pretty hard. And obviously it hasn't panned out as well as I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And this week they're both on bye. So I've been struggling with my CD, Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, Tony Pollard, all that stuff. So it's a fun week for me.
I was going to say, it's going to be interesting, huh?
It's going to be a fun week. Yeah. I'm not expecting too many W's. But let's get into some trade ideas, some buy sells for the week. Who are you going out and trying to trade for right now?
Yeah. So my first one is kind of a two-parter. Like it's because I'm lumping two guys together, and we talked about them a little bit. Tony Pollard, Joe Mixon. Both the guys are running backs who have disappointed. They're both on bye, and they are getting awesome workloads and usage. And they should be much better the rest of the season. So especially in leagues where like my record's good and someone has them that their record's not good and they need to kind of win now, it makes it even better and easier, you know, and kind of making that kind of trade happen because I do expect both to be better. I expect both offenses to be better, and I expect both of them themselves to just be better rest of the season.
I like those two. I think those are great calls. I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, go get CeeDee Lamb before a breakout game happens. He had a decent week this week. I think he was a top 12. If I'm not mistaken. But I still think there's good value for some of those guys that you're talking about that have kind of disappointed the past few weeks, and now they're on their bye. Brees Hall was the guy, obviously, like me and you both were saying, go get him while you can before something happens, and it happened. So he's an interesting guy. But one of my guys, David Montgomery, he's someone I'm going out and trying to get right now with the injury. I think if a team has him where they need to win, you can go give him a piece to get over that hump this week. But once Monty's back, I think he instantly plugs into the same role he was in, where he's getting 20 to 25 carries, getting you good points, top 10 running back production in a high-powered offense. So if you can go out and get him, and again, like for whatever it is, Monty, even though he's got off to this hot start, there's still a stigma about him from the Bears where he's not viewed as a top 10 running back for whatever reason. From what I've noticed, there's still like if I have Monty, people are sending me offers that I look at, I'm like, what are we talking about? Like he's a top 10 back. What are we doing? So if the people are trying to trade for him with junk, I think there's still a stigma around him where he's just not viewed as a top tier running back when he should be with what he's been doing and what this offense has been doing.
No, yeah, I like that call as well. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like he can be a guy, like you said, that some people probably want to sell. Like they're thinking that, oh, you know, he's banged up as the season goes on, they're going to give more work to Gibbs and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I like it.
I don't see that happening. But point blank, period. As a guy that bought in the Gibbs hype, that drafted Gibbs in a few leagues, I just don't see that happening. Campbell came out and said that's what Monty is. He is a workhorse back that you're going to give 20 to 25 carries and let him get those tough yards, let him get beat up a little bit. And Gibbs he views Gibbs as a weapon as opposed to a running back, where they're going to try to give him, 10 to 15 touches throughout the game. Hopefully we get to that 15 area a lot quicker than we're anticipating. But when they're both in the game, Monty's going to be that focal point running back, with Gibbs being a different change of pace and in the receiving game a lot more. Both can be valuable down the stretch, but I think Monty's going to carry that same value we've seen throughout the first 6 weeks of the season.
No, yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there, honestly. Yeah, it's I think people really underrate Monty.
So do I. Yeah, it's just I've always loved Monty, so maybe it's a bias of mine, but I just think he's never gotten the respect he deserves because he was coming from we see it in Chicago, man. It's still a mess. Like he hasn't had that chance to really be behind a good offensive line that can push the defensive line off a little bit, let him get some space. And now look at what we're seeing. So I think I'm valuing him as a top 10 running back the rest of the season. If you can get away with sending something that, again, the owner might not view him as that, I think you can get away with a steal for your playoff push. Like hopefully he's going to carry you into the playoffs and through the playoffs. Who is another guy you were going out and getting?
So yeah, you kind of touched on him a little bit earlier, mentioned him, a little teaser, Brees Hall. I mean, we've been saying it obviously for weeks. It's probably tougher now to do, but he's in a similar situation as the other guys I talked about. Another guy that's on bye. He probably, I would. I'm interested to hear what you think. Do you think he would be harder or easier to get than Pollard and Mixon? Like, where would you rank them in terms of, like, how would you rank those three rest of the season, and how would you rank those
Pollard,
three?
Mixon, Brees?
Yeah.
Redraft
rest of the season.
Brees, Pollard, Mixon.
Ooh, interesting.
That's how I'm going.
I think I'm going Pollard, Brees, Mixon. It makes me nervous about Brees though, because makes me nervous to even put him second, to be honest. I mean, I want to get him, but it makes me nervous to put him second because I feel like he's the riskiest of them. Yeah, just because he's coming off of ACL injury and he has the the worst quarterback of them that could just collapse an offense. Like those two things are make him way riskier and more downside than the other two. Like Mixon is like he's gonna get all the work. He's gonna be inefficient, but he's gonna be in an offense that's likely awesome as Burrow gets more healthy. And it's gonna have a ton of touchdown equity. And then Pollard, similar thing. Like I think their offense is gonna get better as the season goes on. And Pollard is getting insane usage. Like he has the most carries inside the 10 and inside the 5, I believe, in the NFL. So like they just haven't converted. And which the thing is like, everyone talks about like, oh, and then they knock people for that, but that's not a sign of future things to come. In my opinion, that's a sign of regression to the mean. Like if he keeps getting that many, you're gonna punch him in like at some point. And so like I think I go Pollard, Brees, Mixon, but I like I said, obviously I have them all three as trade 4. So with Brees, what's been encouraging, obviously, since we heard that he was going to start getting more usage, his snaps have only ticked up this past week. Season high 68% of snaps, season high 60% route participation, season high 16% target share. So, and he also had 27% of the long down and distance snaps, 40% of the 2-minute drill snaps. So yeah, he's had 2 great weeks in a row, and 76% and 63% of the rushing attempts. It's only going up for him. And honestly, Zach Wilson has been at least competent enough, and they've been.
That's all you ask. Be competent.
Yep. Yeah. So again, it's someone that we've been talking about buying.
Yeah.
Even before this point, for weeks, and for me, it's continue to buy. Like this week to me might be your last chance because he's on a buy, and if the manager who has him is on is 2-4 or worse, that's the perfect chance to go and offer a running back that has a good matchup this week that can help them win this week, and see if you can kind of poach Brees.
Albert's hitting all my points. I was just going to bring this up. I pulled up their schedule. Brees says Giants, Chargers, Vegas. Next 3 matchups. Then obviously a tough one against Buffalo. But then he goes Miami, Atlanta, Houston, Miami. I mean, that's like he could put up running back 1 numbers with that schedule coming up. He's got one tough matchup. Playoffs are tough, though. He's got Washington and Cleveland.
Yeah, I saw that earlier today.
That sucks. But Pollard's got a tough. I mean, man, Pollard's got a tough schedule coming up against some defenses. He's got Philly twice, Washington, Seattle, who's the run defense has been pretty decent, if I'm not mistaken. He's got Buffalo. So he's got 5-6 good defenses. Detroit. So he's got some tough matchups coming up. It just, my whole thing is, it's tough because if you look at it, like I want to say the offense for the Cowboys isn't running smooth, but the Jets is like, again, it's still a mess because of Zach Wilson. So I just think personally, I think Brees is one of the best talents in the league. I think Tony Pollard's awesome. But I think Tony Pollard also depends on Dak Prescott being able to move the ball down the field. And he's not doing that right now for whatever reason, whether it's a play calling, whether it's however it's being done. But you would hopefully Dallas gets things on track with this bye. Hopefully they can figure out what's going on and change up the game plan a little bit. I think that, again, I'm with you. I think they're both go get if you can right now.
I went out in a bunch of leagues.
It's interesting.
Yeah, today usually Wednesday is every week. Wednesday is my trade day, especially after waivers run. I also don't have I don't start my rankings until tomorrow. So like after I catch up at work, I just go through like every league and send out like max trades. I just start looking at trades and looking at options, looking at people, like looking at the situation of other managers, seeing like, okay, am I like, if I'm 5-1, right? I'm looking at the bottom guys to see what kind of stuff they need for this week, and if I can buy guys for rest of the season. Then if I'm in the reverse situation, which I have been, I mean, I told you guys about a trade I did a few weeks back where I got DeAndre Swift and Josh Dobbs and stuff in a super flex situation. So I made that trade where I traded away Cooper Kupp in that league to get those guys. So like, yeah, you just got to really, really know your situation and go after guys that where it makes sense, and also send out
fit
trades
what
that
you
make
need.
sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I do the same. Wednesday's my day. I go out and I try to make some trades happen. Another guy that I sent some trades out for today, Aaron Jones. I think he's a player that has disappointed the manager that has him so far with these injuries. The one game where he came in, he played, he barely was on the field. So he's had one or two really nice games, and then the rest of the season's been a wash. It hasn't been good. He's coming off a bye. I think he got healthy. I think last week why they sat him was because they had the bye this week. It was to just get him fully healthy. I don't think anything was too serious with that hammy. I think it was more of a, all right, instead of keep trotting him out there at 80%, 70%, let's let him sit this week, get healthy. It's the Raiders. We should win, even though it was, a tough game for them. But from the eye test that I've seen every time I watch the Green Bay offense, and it was pronounced, it smacked me in the face the week that Aaron Jones came. So 2 weeks ago, against the Raiders, where he was on the field for 30% of snaps or whatever he was on the field for. This offense completely runs through Aaron Jones. That's it. Nobody else. If he's not on the field, they don't move the ball down the field. When he was on the field for 20% of snaps, that's when they scored touchdowns. That's when they moved the ball a little bit. Aaron Jones, when he's back, he's going to be on the field 80%. Like, I think I am fully confident in saying that. And he is that good where he can be a top 12 back rest of season if he's healthy. That's the big if, right? Like, it's a risky play just because of the hammy. But again, I think he's going to be fine coming off the bye. Gave him that extra 2 weeks of sitting out, getting healthy for this stretch, because I think they sat him out for a playoff push. I think they still think that they can make a push to get in the playoffs in the division that they're in. So Aaron Jones is that guy that I'm going out because, again, it's more of an eye test thing for me where it's the offense revolves around this guy. And when you have a player like that, he's going to just get a ton of work. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like Aaron Jones has been kind of like underrated for years. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Because he's just so good every year, dude. Like he's involved as a pass catcher, he's involved as a runner. He's super efficient. And every year, like, people are like trying to make AJ Dillon more of a thing, and I think he's proven at this point, kind of like he is what he is. He's not that great. When he's got the workload, he's kind of been not that great. He has a game here and there. Like, it's just like he's kind of like to me, like, the way I think of AJ Dillon is like how Alexander Madison was when Dalvin Cook was there, like a lesser version even of that, because at least Madison was better more often when he got the workload than Dillon has been. So I'm with you. I like Aaron Jones rest of the season as well. So
and like you said, he's a player. To me, he's a player just like Monty, where he's just got this stigma where, for whatever reason, people don't think he's as good as he is. And you can utilize that in trading for him. Like, go try to get him. The manager that has him, I'm sure, is frustrated because I have him in a league and I'm frustrated by it, but I'm not going to sell him because I know what he can be. But there's other managers that are just pissed off. They want to wash their hands of it. If you can go get him, I would, because like, everybody on the field for the Green Bay Packers offense is better when Aaron Jones is on the field. And I just think that they are going to quickly realize that, if they already have not realized that. And when he's back healthy, he's just going to be a consistent big piece of that offense.
Yeah, I 100% with you on that. And I hope so for the case of our boy Christian Watson too.
Yes, I think it's again. I would go get him now before Aaron Jones is fully healthy, and Jordan Love looks way better when Aaron Jones is on the field. There's not as much pressure on him to move to those tight windows aren't as tight. You know what I mean? When Aaron Jones is there, they have to respect the run a little bit more. Who's the guy you're going and selling right now?
So yeah, for me, I don't know. People are probably maybe not like this one, but Raheem Mostert.
I get it.
It's tough because
I think he was on my list last week.
Okay, yeah, and he's coming off an even monster game this week, right? Like, but the thing is it was the first week that Jeff Wilson was like activated, but he wasn't active, right?
Yes, and that's why I had it last week because I thought,
that he was going to have a big game, and it was.
I thought Wilson was going to play last week.
Okay, yeah, and that's kind of where it's at this week because Wilson got in a full practice, I believe, already.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, I mean, I know people will say, well, Mostert's been so good and stuff like that. Well, Mostert was good last year too, and then they traded for Wilson, and instantly Wilson stepped in and was like almost the guy right away. Like,
it was like 60-40.
Yeah, so like I would not be surprised if this week all of a sudden we see Wilson get more work even than Mostert. I'm not gonna project it that way. I'm not gonna rank Wilson above Mostert. Don't get me wrong.
It could be like a JT situation where it's a slow phase in.
Yeah, and I still think they're gonna split, right? No matter what. And I think but I think Jeff Wilson is better than Salvon Ahmed and Chris Brooks, and we also have Achane coming back in a few weeks. I think he's out 3 more weeks.
Well, he's on the IR,
right?
So 3 more weeks at least. I still haven't seen if he's going to come back. Up to date about it, like how serious it was.
So that's a possibility as well. And so so hopefully. I'd be searching, and like he's a guy where I feel like his value is so high right now. If you were in a situation where we talk about like you have a good record, you could go out there and you could probably go out and get Tony Pollard plus, right? Maybe. Like,
wow.
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it depends on what the manager is right. Like if the manager's record is 1-5 and they have Tony Pollard on a bye and they're starting Darrell Henderson or Royce Freeman or someone like that, like if you were in 1-5 and you got offered Raheem Mostert for Pollard, needing to win now, it's at least something to consider, I feel like. Yeah. So those are the type of situations where you can kind of take advantage, I feel like. And same thing, Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, those are the kind of guys, like I like all those guys above Mostert. But like,
I think you could get Mixon plus for sure.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Because he's the one I think has the lowest value of those 3 in a trade. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can get a lot for Mostert right now, especially for a team that needs to win now.
I like it. I'm with you. I said that last week.
Got to be really high, though.
I feel like me and you are the only two that have been talking about the usage from last season when Wilson was there. It was Wilson and Mostert. Like, it was more Wilson than it was Mostert. And it's going to be at least 50-50 moving forward until Achane's back. And then who the hell knows what it's going to be thirds. I don't know.
Hopefully it's mostly Achane. Dude's insane.
Me too. For me, it's going to be Zach Moss for a sell. He put up another really nice week this week. 20. I think he had over 20 points again this week. But JT's first week back, Moss was on the field 80% of the time. JT was on 15. This week, it was 50 Moss to JT's 42. I think this is the last chance that you guys, if you have Zach Moss, I think this is the last chance that you're going to have to sell him for something playable. I want you to get out ahead of this before there's absolutely zero trade value for Zach Moss. Again, this week, going up against the Browns either way, I don't think either of them are going to have a really good week like what they did with Christian McCaffrey this week. But if you can get out ahead of it, trade him for something now, like a flexible wide receiver or something along those lines, like I'm fine with that. But again, I think this week it'll be a lot more JT than Moss, probably 70-30 if I had to guess. And then another week later, it's probably going to be like 90-10. Like Zach Moss is going to be relegated to 10 touches, maybe. So if you can get something for him now before that happens, it's going to benefit your team. Other than just letting Zach Moss kind of sit on your bench and doing really nothing.
Right. Basically, after this week, he becomes basically one of the highest upside handcuffs, essentially.
Yes.
I feel
zero
like
trade value.
Yep. Which those guys have zero trade. They're nice to have on the bench, obviously, because they're the biggest value swings in fantasy football. Is the backup running back that gets the full role. But
you're hoping for a JT injury.
Yes, that's it. Basically,
I would go to if I could, I'd talk to the manager that has JT. Yeah, that'd be the guy I'd go after. I'd be like, hey, I got Moss. He's still producing really good. Like, give me whoever whatever wide receiver you think is flexible. I'm trying to think of somebody off the top of my head right now. Let me go through this here. I'm gonna give you a couple. I'll give you a couple options.
Wide receivers
trade. Yeah.
I was trying to think of some as well, like wide receiver 3 flex kind of guys.
Yeah, let's get down here a little bit. Drake London, Tank Dell. I would trade him for Tank Dell, somebody like that. Michael Thomas.
Tank Dell and Michael Thomas were the two I thought of. Those are the exact
those are the guys I would try to. Maybe Rasheed Rice. I would trade him if Rasheed's not there. If someone picked him up, I would think about that.
Yeah, I think that's a solid one as well.
Curtis Samuel, like somebody like that. Again, someone that doesn't really have a massive name value, that you can kind of swindle. Cortland Sutton, like those kind of players.
Yep. Anyone basically, like you said, like it's like a wide receiver 3/flex.
Yeah.
Kind of value-ish.
Oh yeah. Would you trade Moss for Pickens? Yes.
Yeah, and I don't even
100%.
I think, and I say that, and I
don't think Pickens would. I don't think the guy who owns Pickens would trade Moss for him. But if you can, for sure. Yeah. I would trade him for less as well.
Yeah, same, and I've been impressed by Pickens. I was low on Pickens. Because I've been a Deontay guy, obviously. So
he's still he was another one last week for me where I was telling people to sell coming off that big game.
Deontay. I
don't see it. Today. He is one of those players to me where it's like a Gabe Davis outlook, where it's like you plug him in perfect. And you're like, let's go.
Gabe Davis is actually another one I'd trade Moss for.
For sure, I would trade. I mean, Gabe Davis is a top 24 wide receiver right now. He's been producing. This is the season he's actually been pretty consistent, minus last week. But Pickens to me, he's one of those players where he'll get you 30 and then he'll get you 2, 4, 5, 25, 4, 6. And it's only going to get more muddy when Deontay's fully back healthy. So that's why Pickens to me is a little like, I don't know. But for Moss, if I can trade Moss for Pickens, 100% I'm doing that because Pickens is going to be playable the rest of the season. Where again, I'm saying Moss, I don't think is going to be playable after this. Right now, I'm not plugging him in this week, and after that, forget it.
You may be in a situation where you might almost have to this week.
But with the outlook of the running backs. Mm-hmm.
But I'm in a situation in one of my leagues. I have Mixon on a bye, and that I had no second running back. As is already, and Moss had been filling in that spot. So now I have Mixon on a bye. I picked up Zach Evans, so right now I'm rolling out Moss and Evans this week in that league. I don't feel great about it either way, but I could either play Antonio Gibson or Zach Charbonnet.
I'm starting Royce Freeman in a couple leagues. I'm pulling up my team real quick.
It's tough, dude. It's so tough out there. Six teams on bye. Injuries piling up.
There's a lot going on. I'm starting Roshan, which I got lucky, and Jeff Wilson because I picked him up 2 weeks ago. So I was planning ahead for this.
There you go.
Rashid Shaheed, I got some of those kind of guys.
Another guy I just thought of actually. Would you trade Zach Moss for Josh Downs?
It's an interesting one. I would do it.
I think I would too.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like. I mean, I was down on Indy pass catchers because I was so high on Anthony Richardson as a runner. Right. So like,
yeah.
But now with Minshew, there should be more dropbacks. There should be more pass attempts. There should be more attempts each week. And Downs has been good with Minshew almost every week, it feels like. And he's playing a lot, running a lot of routes every week. I would go out there and trade Moss for Downs if you can.
Downs seems like, I don't want to say the go-to guy for Minshew, but like a safety blanket for sure.
Yeah. Yep. I would. I think you're like you mentioned, your best spot to trade Moss to is either the JT manager. JT manager.
That's the guy you go after.
Yep. Or the only other spot to trade him to is the manager who's down bad, basically. Like they're 1-5, 0-6, really needing a win, and they don't have a running back to play. Like those are the two situations.
Or a team like, there's teams that one of my teams is like this, couple teams that I know of that they just got hit with injuries, A-Chain and Kyron Williams now. And like all these injuries are piling up to the running back position where some teams are playing Royce Freeman and, whoever they can get that's going to get a couple touches.
Right.
Those are the teams that you can go and be like, hey, I got Zach Moss. Like, I'll trade you him for whoever. Like, give me a name. Let's talk a little bit about this because you need a running back for the next couple of weeks with these injuries. Like, who do you want?
Exactly.
Who is another guy you're selling?
So going back to the well on this one, I've been kind of beating this drum for weeks now, and it really hasn't been going great for me. It's Christian Kirk. He's been a guy that I've been saying to sell for a while, and that's because of the expectation of Zay Jones coming back, and he just keeps not coming back. So I don't know. That's the thing I still think even with Zay Jones out, like I like Christian Kirk much more with Zay Jones out, and it's not even that I think Zay Jones is that good, but it's just the fact that I think in two wide receiver sets that Zay Jones stays on the field because they like Jones and Ridley on the outside. And we kind of saw that in week 1. And I don't know if it was just a week 1 thing or if it's something. Right. And we still don't know, and we won't know until he comes back and see the usage and things like that. And he might still not even be back this week. So it may not, but at the same time, ultimately, even if he's not back, Calvin Ridley's been struggling. I think Calvin Ridley is going to do better than what he's been doing, which again takes away. ETN also leads the NFL in touches, so the dude is getting usage like crazy, right?
Yes,
this is what I was hoping for last year from ETN. You were banging the drum for him this year, and he's been great. He's been great. And Evan Ingram is also one of the more heavily utilized tight ends. Like that's just a lot to go around. Yeah, it's a lot to go around in an offense that has been overall somewhat disappointing from what.
That's the crazy part. Like it's producing.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part. Like this offense hasn't been good to like what we expected. But it's got a top 5 running back, a top 5 tight end, 2 top 24 wide receivers.
I think, yeah.
That's where I'm like, what the like? If this offense clicks, like we think it can, like what's going to happen?
Risk, yeah, that's the risk.
Like, who's going to be the guy? You would think it'd be Calvin, right?
Yeah.
Like
because he showed
you
that.
You would assume it would be Calvin,
right?
But it could easily be Kirk. It really could.
It could. And that's the risk, I think, with dealing Kirk is the fact that Zay Jones doesn't get healthy like throughout the course of the year. Like he just never really gets healthy. And it's kind of like a lost year for him injury wise.
Yeah.
And they click.
Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're good.
The only other concern to me is Zay's already been ruled out, according to Albert. I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. The other thing for me is Zay's been out so long that Kirk has really solidified it. Like he's making the plays. He looks good. he's getting 8 to 12 targets a week and producing with those targets.
Yep.
So it's like, even if Zay comes back, it's hard to keep Christian Kirk off the field. It's gonna be hard to keep him off the field,
Right.
Especially like if they come out this week and the offense like explodes.
Yeah.
Like, how do you keep him off?
No, I agree.
So we'll
and that's a thing.
I get it though. I get it for sure.
Yeah, and that's one thing where it is a risk trading him. But I do think you can get value for him because, like, obviously, I know you like him, and I know there are a lot of people that really like him.
Yeah, he's one of those players.
Yeah, but the thing
you
is,
either love him or you don't.
Right, and the funny thing is though, a lot of the people who love him are probably the people who already have him. So it's the people like me. I don't really have much of them, so there's really no like trading them for me because I don't even have them. The people who have them are the ones who don't want to trade them. So
yeah,
it's an interesting conundrum with him.
Good word. Conundrum is the right thing to say. Yeah, it's gonna be again very interesting to see what happens when Zay comes back with that offense. Last sell for me is going to be Derrick Henry. I've been talking about selling a lot of these players off this offense for pretty much every week. I have a Tennessee Titan on this list to trade away. But Derrick Henry, Spears has been out snapping him in the majority of the game so far. Again, he's at like a 2-to-1 split in targets. Spears is out targeting Derrick Henry about 2-to-1. And right now there's some trade rumors floating around about Derrick Henry. He might get traded. He might not. He might get traded to a playoff contending team. This only ups his value right now, where if I would send that in the group chat, like, hey, dude, Derrick Henry might be getting on the move here. Let's go. Let's talk it up a little bit. And then you can go and try to pounce and get more value than what he's worth right now. Because even if he's traded, I still don't think he's the same player that he's been the previous seasons. Like, I think we see it that he's just not that same guy compared to previous years, even though he has a couple, you can see it. Like, you see it every once in a while with like a breakout run, something like that, but it's not anywhere near how it was in previous years. And with all these trade rumors, again, I just think the value of where he's at now is probably his peak value. Go trade him. Get out of it now, because if he doesn't get moved, you're stuck holding this bag where there's not a ton of value.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's like the risk with a lot of like older running backs, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't, you wait too long and their value either just like really, really regress or they get hurt later in their careers, like that value is just tanked, full tank. Like,
dynasty wise.
Yeah, for sure.
Even, I mean, I'm talking redraft specifically. Like, go trade him now because he's just not what he was. Like, he isn't, and it's fine. But again, like these rumor rumblings, like, it's just gonna up his value. It's gonna make there's gonna be someone in your league that sees that and is like, oh shit, like Derrick Henry's gonna be back once he gets moved. Pounce on it. Go get somebody worth value, and then see what happens. Like, even if he gets traded, I still don't think he's that same player. And if he doesn't get traded, this is what he's gonna be like the rest of the year. It's not that good. Like, he's not putting up what he used to, and he's not going to, especially with getting only 50% of the snaps.
Right. I was gonna say Spears has eaten into his workload more than anyone has in the past 5 years or whatever. So it's now is the time. For
sure. Nort, anybody else you want to bring up while we're here?
No, I think we hit a bunch of guys. Honestly, we hit a lot of
players.
Yeah. So make sure you go sending out those trades. Get some trades in before the Thursday game possibly, and get some extra W's and keep winning.
Get the W's. And absolutely. I will be back tomorrow night with Mario as always, getting you ready for Thursday night football. We will be here 7 p.m. Eastern. Getting those last minute start sit questions, some DFS stuff. Get on Twitter, pump up Norton with his top 10. I keep saying top 10 ERC rankings for fantasy pros. Massive accomplishment. And we'll get you guys out of here. Let's get out of here, Nort. Ready?
Sounds good to me.
This is the Dad Bod Squad. I'm Rob. That's Nort. We love you.
Thank you for watching our episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you aren't already following us on Twitter, check us out at DadBodFS.
We'll be posting all of our best clips and videos to all of our social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us on there at DadBod Fantasy Squad.
Lastly, if you'd rather just listen, we make sure we post our audio of each episode on all the major streaming platforms. Stick with us all season long so together we can count our trophies and not our calories.